Yo, what's going on? It's your boy, Big Wavy Roy Johnson here.
This is the professional Nathan Crew.
Yo, this is man like Darius.
Hi, this is Tom Thurber.
This is Benji.
This is the Asian sensation Kanji.
This is the Nightmare Fuel Hassan Malone.
This is Joe Rage, the heavyweight classic.
This is Mad Dog O'Doherty.
This is Tonga.
I'm the Breaker, Carl Kingsley.
This is the infamous Cameron Solis, and you're listening
to
Broken but Glorious.
Broken but Glorious.
To Broken but Glorious podcast, because like me, you are head to toe a pro.
Hello and welcome to Britwres Journeys on bbgwrestling.com. I'm Chris Lappin. I'm delighted to be joined on the line by the Lancashire Wrestling Federation champion, Carl Clinch. How are you doing this evening, Carl?
I'm not doing too bad, my friend. Not doing too bad.
Yeah, huge thanks for joining this evening. Having a good day?
Yeah, been a good day, thank you.
Yeah, you've had a quite cool return to the ring since post-lockdown. You've had two successful title defences against your brother-in-law, Raynaldo. LWF described the victories as treacherous. Can you let the listeners know a bit about the story of the feud so far?
Okay, so Raynaldo and I go back all the way to, God, it must be about 2007 when we were both at Future Shock. Teamed up, worked together for years, and then sort of when, for various reasons, we sort of wound down our time at Future Shock a little bit. And then I started seeing his sister, Rosa, who we later got married. So Ray became my brother-in-law. And then when we sort of, when LWF started up and I got involved with sort of the school and things like that, I invited Ray along. I knew he wasn't, sort of particularly happy with how he's sort of running wrestling has sort of come to an end, and specifically sort of since he became a dad. Yes. I knew he'd want there to be a time when his little lad could come and see him wrestle and stuff like that.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, so despite what goes on in the ring with me and Ray, the guy I've always known is super talented. The fans love him, so it was always going to be an asset to bring in. Anyway, so he got a bit of a second run at his career, just like I did, and then that accumulated sort of just before lockdown at our Lancashire Riot event, which is, for those who don't know, kind of like a Royal Rumble sort of thing, but the last two compete in a one fall to a finish sort of thing. Yeah. And he won, which granted him number one contendership. And obviously then it was meant to be April of that year, what would have been 2019, I guess. And then COVID happened, or 2020, sorry, was it? I forget. I get mixed up with the years, 2020. And then with COVID and things like that, obviously that got put off for an entire year. We finally got our match in just a few months back at our Swanaganza event. Yeah, it would have been about July. And that, possibly didn't end the way he was expecting it to. And he may or may not have got hit in the head with a steel chair. And I, regardless, retains my title against him. So yeah. Things have got a little acrimonious since then, I suppose, I would say.
And that's when you started the Lancashire Wrecking Crew.
The Lancashire Wrecking Crew, yeah. So, the Lancashire Wrecking Crew is me, Davey Detsky and Chris Stone. They're two of my sort of longest-standing students at the LWF Academy. And the two guys that, the styles are very different. Chris is a big sort of brawler guy. Davey Getsky, very, very sort of technical, a lot quicker, quite aggressive sort of a guy. But the skills and the skill set very much complement each other. And the two guys I've always wanted to do something with, to work with, and to try and, have their sort of talents added to sort of my, I guess, experience and in the industry and how long I've been doing it. I felt it'd be a nice sort of three-man group to go forward. So very, very excited indeed to bring those two boys in. And Dave, I'm friends with both of them, but Dave now lives up in this area as well. We spend a lot of time together. We go to the gym all the time together and stuff like that. So it was very much something we wanted to do, bring it together as a group, and thankfully we got the opportunity to do it at the LWF.
Amazing. And then so the next show is on Saturday, and Is it a 6-man tag for the championship?
It's not for no.
I wasn't quite sure how it works. Yeah.
So the show on Saturday, Honour and Glory, is a 6-man tag between the Lancashire Wrecking Crew, me, Chris, and Dave, against Raynaldo, Nick Cutter, and Bob Coston.
Yes.
Now, there is no belt on the line. There's a lot of pride on the line, I think, and I think a lot of it is sort of to do with Ray and Bob, who we've had some altercations with as well, wanting to get his hands on us more than sort of any sort of specific title opportunity and things like that. I think there'd be an argument, that certainly maybe in Ray's head, that if they won that match, he would maybe get another title shot.
Yes.
I don't know, but yeah, we'll see about that.
So I saw today that the online tickets are sold out, but there will be limited tickets on the door if anybody would like to go along. I put the information in the description below the interview.
Lovely stuff. Yeah, that is the case. The online tickets are sold out. To be fair, not sort of toot our own horn. Every single show that we've had since we've come back has sold out prior to the night. So if people do want to come, it is kind of sort of, we can reserve seats on a sort of first come, first serve basis. So if you do want to come to that, I would really recommend you just get in touch with the page and let us know, because we can reserve you some seats, but it might be too late if you just turn up on the night, basically.
Yeah, they're cool. Yeah, I spoke to Steve at Odyssey Pro Wrestling, and he was so pleased with the turnout for the show, the return show. So.
Yeah, so it is a good. It's for a town that didn't really have sort of any wrestling until we've come along. That they are a really good wrestling crowd. The last 2 shows they've been so loud, so supportive and vocal to everyone, and they're a great crowd. We're very grateful for the LWF fans. It must be said. Yeah,
it looks like a great company. It's got to be. It's on Power. Is it Power 4 TV? I can't remember which one.
It is on Power 4 TV. Yeah. So we've got a few of our events from pre-lockdown on there. We've got the Slamaganza event, and I believe that Summer Smash, the show before this one on Saturday, will be up before this time next week. So hopefully that'll be as well. So yeah, very very good to do business with them as well. Gives us a wider sort of audience, and it's good as well. I subscribe to it. It's great. It's good to see what other companies where there's been shows that I can't get to and stuff like that. Get to see what they do and stuff like that. So I think it's a great service personally, and well worth the money.
It is brilliant. So as I said, I'll put information in the description below the interview.
This is Synergy Super Athlete Troy Ryan, and you're listening to Broken But Glorious.
Let's go right back to the beginning. So who was your favourite wrestler growing up?
My favourite wrestler growing up, sort of went in stages, I think. So when I was a kid, it was around the sort of Hulk Hogan days of wrestling and stuff like that. Sort of showing my age there, but I think I got into it when I was about 8, which would have been about 1992 or something like that.
Yeah, same year I got into it. I kind of started getting into it about Survive. I want to say we got Sky around Survivor Series 91. So.
Yeah, it was about the same time, because I remember weirdly, because they didn't have the same sort of channels. I think the sort of wrestling events ended up being on Sky Movies or something like that.
I was allowed to stay up and watch WrestleMania on Sky Movies.
Oh, brilliant! So you're from the same era then. So like all kids of that sort of generation, we all loved Hogan and stuff like that. But I remember it was specifically Randy Savage that really sort of got my attention.
Yeah, my favourite as well.
And I really liked Shawn Michaels as well. Even though I could appreciate he was the bad guy, I always remembered him, because not so long after that, sort of when maybe it was about 10, 11, 12 sort of time, I didn't watch wrestling until I was like sort of in my late teens again. But I always remembered like Savage, Hogan, and Shawn Michaels. So I think specifically Michaels and Savage would have been my favourite around that time. And then when I sort of got back into it, that was around the time. Do you remember when it started getting shown on Channel 4?
Yes, that was when I kind of missed the Attitude Era, because once I turned like 16 and started going out drinking and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
It wasn't really cool to watch wrestling, even though that was like the greatest period of wrestling apparently. So
I did end up missing a lot of it. You get it. You was exactly the same as me. My wife Rosa has all these memories of stuff that happened in the Attitude Era that I just didn't ever see until I sort of saw them, later. But I got back into it about the time of the Royal Rumble 2000, the one that was on Channel 4, all the ad breaks and stuff. And since then, it's been, regular. I've always watched it ever since. And sort of not too long after that, a couple of years after that, I suppose, so like Shawn Michaels came back, didn't he, and had that amazing comeback. So that was always a big thing. I think, again, maybe to maybe a slightly lesser degree, Chris Jericho was someone I really liked when I sort of got back into it as well. And then when I got to uni, I started sort of discovering more sort of indie wrestling as well, and people who are massive stars now, but would have been considered indie wrestlers back then. And the massive one, and I'm sure this is the same for most wrestlers on the circuit, is CM Punk, and then AJ Styles as well. But Punk specifically, I remember, because I just thought this just looked like a normal sort of size guy. He's not larger than life. He's not, he's athletic, but he's not massive. He doesn't do a billion flips. He's just a guy who wrestles really well, and the crowd, react to him. He's, without doing very much sort of specifically, the guy was like a star, and it was very much Punk who maybe sort of saw him. I thought, that's a smaller dude doing wrestling for a living. There must be a way of sort of doing that. And I would say he was probably my biggest influence that made me think, it's not out of the realms of possibility that a person who's not built like Hulk Hogan or something could actually go and become a wrestler. So I think from different sort of generations of it would have been Shawn Michaels and Randy Savage, and then people like sort of later era Shawn Michaels and maybe Chris Jericho, and then onto people like CM Punk after that. So it's sort of gone in stages of sort of who my favourite.
I was very similar. Growing up, it was Macho Man was my favourite. Jake the Snake was my favourite as well.
Jake the Snake, how did I forget to mention him? Yeah, Jake the Snake.
Yeah, then when I got back into it in 2001, it was Rob Van Dam was my favourite. Van Dam was good as well. I did like Rob Van Dam. I don't think it to like the same extent that I liked some of the others. I think because I sort of missed all this sort of ECW stuff. Same. I wasn't WWE. I got back into it because I heard the invasion was happening, so I was like, "Ooh, I have to get this pay-per-view." I moved out, couldn't afford Sky, so I stopped watching it again for a couple of years.
And then back into it again.
2006, I heard ECW was starting again, so I was like, okay.
Give that a watch.
CM Punk was on it a couple of months later, so that's kept me going. So what prompted you to don the tights and get in the ring yourself?
After I sort of finished uni, it would have been about 2005, 2006, I think. I was, I'll be honest, I didn't really know what I wanted to do and things like that. And then I think it was in Power Slam magazine, I want to say, if you remember that. I don't think it's published anymore. But I remember there was an advert in there for a week-long sort of wrestling camp with NWA UK, which was based down in Kent. And, you see the name NWA, you straight away think, wow, that's prestigious. That's something that So I actually went down there with my brother the first time to this week long training camp, and that was in Ashford, which is a place in Kent, and it was under a guy called what was his name now? It was Andre something, I forgot his surname. But he was this really old school guy who would tie people in knots and stuff like that. And Paul Tracy was the other trainer. And they had a very young Zack Sabre Jr. as well down there at the time as well, sort of assisting with the coaching. So it was really hard going and very little actual ring time. There was a lot of jumping on jigsaw mats and sort of learning to flip bump onto these sort of jigsaw mats that offer no sort of protection. As a wrestling coach myself now, it's something that I think looking back on was ridiculous and I'd never ask a new student to do. But it was good. I stuck at it because of it, and I think sort of certainly early on in my career, the sort of things, the sort of technical stuff that these guys were teaching us, the sort of old school British fashion of wrestling that they were teaching us, gave me a bit of a sort of one up when I started sort of training in more local places. So I probably did those camps for a couple of years, and there were a lot of people on that sort of went on to really good things. A 14-year-old Mark Andrews, for example, was that first one, with like skinny little guy with long blonde hair and stuff like that. But even then you could tell how good he was going to be. The stuff like the flips and stuff he could do even at 14 was just insane.
Yes.
And he was like, despite everyone being like that much older than him and stuff like that, he was so like charismatic, and everyone loved him, and he joined in with everything and stuff. So I think it was no surprise he made it. Another one is Andy Wilde, who's based up in Scotland these days. He's done a few bits on NXT UK as well. He runs his own school as well. I think up in Fife. He was there. And there were a bunch of Irish guys who were training under Finn Balor as well, who were up there at the time. I think there's always discussions that he was going to come down and do some stuff, but I don't think it ever occurred to my memory, unfortunately. But yeah, it was good. It was a good bunch of guys. But yeah, God, it was hard work. I remember coming back, and that was literally covered in bruises, and my insides hurt. I remember. I don't think I've necessarily felt since in wrestling, but yeah, that was the start for me.
I've heard if you can survive your first training session and you want to go back, then it's for you. But I've heard people just go, they've done one training session, hurt so much they just couldn't do it ever again.
Exactly, and the thing was, it was 5 days of like 9 to 5 training, so the body had no time to recover. So yeah, such hard work, but I'm very glad I did it, because I think if I hadn't, then I don't think I would have probably sort of continued on with it. But for more local schools, and that's what I did. I started searching for local wrestling schools and things like that, and then I did find one that was really close to where I live. But that was I'm going to say less than sort of reputable. The first time I trained. So with that one, it was literally down the road from where I lived in, just outside of Wigan, and it was a school called the NPWA. I think it was the Nitro Pro Wrestling Alliance. Now, as rumor actually has it that school was the one that sort of started off all of the sort of promotions in the sort of area in the northwest. I think GPW in Wigan were a sort of a bunch of guys who realised that they weren't learning anything or doing anything proper with that school, and went off and did their own thing and become massively more successful.
It's like Johnny Brannigan's school.
Yeah, Brannigan. Yeah. So I think he was originally involved in training there, and they may have had people like I think they had people like Joey Hayes and stuff like that as well down at that time. But they all realised that these guys didn't actually sort of know what they were doing. It didn't take me all that long to realise that as well, to be honest. And I think Future Shock sort of maybe ended up sort of being an alternative to them as well. So I was with them for a little while, wrestling under my first wrestling name. I was going
to the name Johnny Rage kept coming up in my.
Yeah, I think Johnny Rage is what I wanted to go by.
Right, okay.
The most generic sounding wrestling name ever. But then I actually ended up going sort of like with the full punk gimmick and was Johnny Vodka, like a proper sort of like 70s era like nasty punk guy, which I had loads of fun doing. But I then went to. I basically just decided, I'm not. This is a joke. All people are they're just not learning anything. All of the shows are just about these guys who were technically trained. I'm doing air quotes. You can't see us. See what training was. And me and a few others had just sort of had enough of it, and we said, you know what, this might be convenient. It's around the corner. Yeah, we're being on shows, but we're not going to do anything doing this. We're working in front of 16 people or something. Let's just cut our losses, go somewhere else. So that's when I went to Future Shock and was training there. And I knew the consequence of doing that would be basically starting afresh and having to work my way back on shows. So, but that was the price I was willing to pay. And obviously the training there was far, far superior. And that's basically where I stayed then for the majority of the first part of my career, shall we say, until my sort of semi-retirement and coming back with the LWF a few years later.
I was going to say you spent time with Grand Pro Wrestling and Future Shock. Where you won the tag team titles. So why did you decide to take that break?
So Future Shock then, I think is a very different place than what Future Shock is now. I think back at the time, there was. I don't really know how to sort of put this. I'm not trying to downplay anyone here or anything like that, but I think it wasn't really taken into account that as a grown adult, you had your own responsibilities and things like that. And both me and Raynaldo had discovered that, if we couldn't make it to training each and every week at a certain time, then there was less opportunities for us. But other people who, maybe that rule didn't apply to them so much. And what we both discovered as well was that when our respective tag teams broke up, there was we were afforded no blow off or anything like that. It was just right. That's it. Now that's over. So you might do the odd 8-man tag once in a while. And the truth is, I think both of us just became a little bit jaded with it. And I'd started seeing Rosa around about the sort of time my Future Shock career was sort of coming to an end. And I think I just sort of realised there's other things in life apart from wrestling as well. I'd got a little bit sort of fed up with my position on it at that time. I had other things going on with my life as well. I was working, starting my sort of career in what I do, full time now. And I had requirements to be working late and stuff like that. So it was harder to train. And I just sort of moved away from it, I guess, a little bit. And I didn't think that I'd miss it. And I didn't for a long time as well. And what I will say as well is that back then, I think I felt that I was hard done by. I felt that I was getting overlooked and I shouldn't have been. But as I've sort of matured a bit, I think it was probably a bit of a two-way street. I probably could have been doing more at that time to be training more and to be working out more and getting on these shows through perseverance and making myself that position rather than thinking I've been doing this 8 years at this point. I should be granted this place on a show. Which I think maybe there was a little bit of that at the time. But regardless, it had come to an end at that point, and I didn't necessarily think I was interested in coming back as such. I had moments where I thought, I kind of wish I was still doing this. But for maybe 3 years or so, it never crossed my mind that I was ever going to sort of come back. It was just something I'd done once upon a time. And now it's not something I'm interested in anymore. But then that changed when LWF came about.
Yeah, so I'm trying to remember my interview with Steve Bibby. He started the school and he approached you to be a coach.
Yeah.
Was it just to be a coach? There wasn't do you want to come in as a wrestler as well? Or is it just
so? Basically, this is such a bizarre story. So I'm guessing it might be if you've discovered bloody Johnny Rage and stuff like that. But are you familiar with that website Cage Match where it just lists So I don't know who maintains that. I don't know how they get this information, but all of my wrestling stuff is on there. And he'd literally just typed in wrestlers in like Wigan or Chorley or whatever. My name, probably through sheer alphabetical order, came up and he contacted me. And I remember I was waiting for a tram at the time and I saw this message come up and I was like, what? Why on earth? How has this happened? So I had a little bit of a chat with him and I explained, I said, look, I am probably capable of teaching people the very basics. I've been away from it. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm probably a bit rusty in some areas, but I will need to think about it. So I've been away a long time. I'm not sure that this is something that's for me necessarily. I need to have a bit of a think. And I spoke to Ray, I spoke to my wife, and I spoke to a few people, who were still about in the industry and I was still friends with. And basically the advice was, it can't hurt you to go and just see what he's got going on down there. So I did. I went down to Chorley. I said I'll do one training session and we'll take it from there. So when I went down, straight away, they didn't have the best ring and stuff like that at the time. The actual room was fairly small and not really ideal. We've got a lot better since. But what I did see straight away was Steve's sort of enthusiasm for it, and his desire to make it better. Now, I always take the mick out of him a little bit. The LWF itself, and certainly with him, come from almost a sort of backyard background, which I've always tried to sort of downplay a lot. But what he wanted to do was to erase that, have trained wrestlers learning the work and run it as a business, which he very much does. And if it wasn't for his sort of enthusiasm and his willingness to learn and things like that, I probably would have stuck to it. But because of that, I thought this is someone who's really passionate about it. This is someone who wants to do things the right way. They don't just want to put on a wrestling promotion because they'll think it'll be fun. They want to literally run one as a business and do things correctly. I thought this is someone that maybe I can help. And we've worked really well together since. Now, that first training session, we just went over the very basics, reversals to headlocks and wrist locks and stuff like that. But as soon as I started teaching these people, I just fell back in love with it again. And that sounds massively cliche, I know, but it's true. I just thought, God, this is exactly what I want to be doing. Now, at first, to answer the sort of earlier thing you said about coming back as a wrestler, my initial thoughts were, I'll be happy just teaching people. I don't need to be back in the ring. I don't need to be wrestling again. But when you start doing little training matches with them and working with these people, you start to think, maybe, I might do one match and see how it goes. And then, it's just spiraled. I ended up being on shows each time. And I think the initial idea was, with me and with Ray and with a couple of others with a little bit more sort of experience, we could sort of set the groundwork for the next generation of young wrestlers to come through. And that is still very much, the plan. I have had that belt for a while. I am the champion. I'm feuding with Ray at the moment, but, there will come a time, and not so far from now, I think, that, people like us will step back, and the younger guys who have been learning all this time and training, their time, then it'll be their turn to do that, and me and Ray and people like that will take a step back, and that's always been the plan. So yeah,
in an ideal world, you probably have Cutter pin you on Saturday as he won the cup, and then
who's Saturday?
Cutter,
Nick Cutter.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, it is guys like Nick Cutter, and I've actually worked a title match with him before now. Guys like him, guys like Davey Getsky, and the guys that we sort of almost share with Future Shock. So you've got your Troy Ryans and your Keenans and people like that who are fantastic, like beyond fantastic, way better than I could have ever hoped to be that early on in my career. Who are
monsters as well, with Troy Ryan and
God, Troy. Let me tell you, Troy Ryan is the nicest man I have ever met in wrestling, and he could legitimately snap anyone he wanted in half if he wanted to. But he's just the most nice, down to earth guy. But ultimately they will be the guys who represent the company, in sort of years to come. Every effort will be made to sort of portray them like that as well, because whilst it might help having more knowledgeable or established people in the sort of early stages, we've been going a little while now. We're moving past that, and whilst Carl Clinch, the wrestler, has no intentions of dropping the belt anytime soon, one day it will happen. And I think the people we've trained, they've got to be the ones to step up then and sort of show the wrestling world what we're about and what they can do. And we will always give them that opportunity, definitely.
I don't know if you can talk about this, but were there any matches or storylines in 2020 you're particularly looking forward to that couldn't happen because of COVID?
Okay, so all of this stuff that I'm doing with Ray, that was meant to happen during COVID. And obviously that's just been sort of put back a year. There were longer term plans as well. And some plans did have to change. I don't really want to go into sort of too much detail of that, because it initially it did involve sort of people that were named in speaking out and things like that.
Yes.
I don't think it's I don't think it's worth giving those people any sort of airtime at all. But certain plans did change. But the initial storyline and what was going to happen has been relatively similar, just maybe replacing certain individuals. So I can't really go into too much detail about sort of storylines that would have happened because they're actually probably still going to happen just in the future now. So basically all of last year would have been the storyline that you're seeing now. It's just a year later on.
Is that why you haven't you don't usually have monthly shows? Is it monthly shows just to catch up on the storyline, and then you're eventually going to go back to bi-monthly, quarterly?
Yeah. I mean, initially we were doing bi-monthly, and we were sort of quite happy doing that. We did want to try and do a bit of catching up, so we did say let's see how it goes with monthly shows. But I think one of the benefits that we've had is that we've split our shows between the Army Reserve Centre in Chorley and the Buckshaw Community Centre it was just outside of Chorley in Buckshaw. But each show, as they've been completely sort of selling out, and the crowd have been loving it and hot for the stuff that's happening, I suspect that unless things change, we will probably continue to do monthly shows split between the two venues. So give the people what they want, I guess.
Yeah. So I'm guessing having this time off of the 18 months off of COVID, you had time to rest your body and get rid of all them niggling injuries and kind of work on what has worked and hasn't worked well over the last couple of years. So you're going to make any tweaks to your character or to your moveset style?
I've definitely made tweaks to my character because I'm known as one of the fan favourite Carl Clinch. I've never really had like a sort of fast-paced or flippy up or standard sort of babyface style. I've just always wrestled as me. It's been mainly sort of selling and character work and sort of gaining the crowd's sympathy and stuff like that. So my style's not specifically changed. I've just tried to spend a lot more time in the gym and stuff like that. And I sort of alluded to it earlier. In the first part of my career, I maybe neglected that quite a bit. But wrestling since that time. There's so many more opportunities. It's such a different world. It's no longer, just a bunch of people who are in particularly great shape wrestling in shorts and t-shirts and stuff. These are now professional athletes at sort of every level of wrestling. So
the age of some of the guys, I can't believe how old they are. Like something 17, 18, 19.
I know,
how good are you got to be when you're like 22, 23, 24?
Well, that's the thing. We've got young people wrestling in the academy, and young people who are on shows. I mean, you've only got to look at your young guns, your Tom Felwells and people like that. And they're in great
I couldn't believe
I
interviewed Tom last year, and I couldn't believe he was 17 when I interviewed him. I was like, what? I thought you're like 22. How good you are when I've seen you live. I assumed you're like 22, 23. You're 17. I was like,
it's honestly, it's ridiculous. I remember there was one show, and it was Tom Felwell, Dynamite Lee, and I can't remember the other person.
Nice
another younger guy. And they were sat there talking to me about wrestling. And then one of them just, again, happened to sort of just mention, like, their age. I think Tom was, like, 17 at the time. And I was like, this is just depressing. I am literally old enough to be all of your dads without it even being, like, really odd. It's like, oh, this is just odd. But a lot of these guys would have been literally primary school children or younger when I started wrestling. And now they're, like, fantastic professional wrestlers. It's crazy, but like I say, it's a world apart from what it used to be. And it's because I think it is because of these opportunities that are available to people that people take it that much more seriously. So the only real difference with me is that I have spent a lot more time in the gym than I used to. It's something I've become probably semi-addicted to. So I'm quite a bit heavier than I used to be, a bit more bulked out and things like that. That does, I suppose, have a bit of an impact on your wrestling. But yeah, I think it's important, to sort of lead by example in that point. If I'm the sort of head trainer at the school, then I've got to be seen putting the hours in at the gym as well. And like I say, it's Dave who is my gym buddy. Davey Getsky. We train together several times a week and stuff like that, and both of us are seeing the improvements for doing it. So that's been the main difference that happened over lockdown. I think it's just my sort of my strength and my conditioning has improved because I spent even more time at the gym than I was previously. But yeah, actual ring style I don't think has changed anything majorly, really.
So going forward, are you going to be like exclusive to LWF, or are you going to branch out?
I'm always happy to branch out, and I will be looking at it to do so. You may well see us in other places sooner than you think. But what's I'm not one of those who would want to take a wrestling booking at the expense of one of my students. So ideally, they would get it first. I'm still happy to work anywhere that wants me. There's probably less of a market for a 37-year-old than your younger guys who've maybe got more years worth to offer. But it's not necessarily an exclusive thing. But I am grateful for any wrestling that I am doing, especially when I thought it was all over a few years ago. So even if it is just LWF, I'm grateful for it. I love doing it, and if anyone else does want me, then where I am.
So you've defended your title against Joey Hayes and Styx. Do you have a wish list of opponents you'd like to face before you eventually lose it to one of the other guys?
Yeah, I think one person. There's two people I'd really like to have a chance to defend it against. One is Dan Evans. That's someone I've known through wrestling for years, but again, after I sort of left, he's just become an absolute brute of a guy, and a legitimate champion.
Until Sunday, he was the champion at my local promotion, Wrestle Island.
Yeah, he was. He was.
Warren Banks. Yeah, he's been a great champion.
Yeah, so that's always been someone I would love to wrestle.
I can see that being a great match. Yeah.
I'd love it. I would honestly love that. And another one is Sonna Durson as well. Absolute first-rate wrestler. And again, he was sort of coming in as I was coming out, and there's just the sort of difference in what he's become as well. Is insane. Joey was always my go-to one. Joey was always the first one that I wanted to have a big name defense against. So I'm really grateful for having that. And then there's other guys out there who are come to prominence in my break, I suppose. So you've got your guys like your JJ Webbs, your Big Guns Joes, your Chris Ridgways, people like that. Yes. Who weren't really known before in the first part of my career, but are now doing it amazingly. So yeah, any of them, I may or may not get to wrestle something for the title at some point. I don't know. It depends how long I hold it. But no, that would be those sort of guys would be a wish list for me, I think, at this stage.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, you versus Big Gun Joe could be fun. Especially if you. I don't know who I'd prefer, because I prefer Joe as a heel. So I'd have you the face.
Yeah, well, I can see it.
For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Keenan, and you are listening to BBG Wrestling Podcast.
Right, so if you're a promoter for a day, promoting an event, so using wrestlers you've either worked with, trained with, wrestlers are associated to you in some way. If I give you a match type, will you tell me who you put in that match?
Let's do it.
And as it's your card, you can have every match be intergender, every match be triple threats, fatal four ways, multiple person. You can throw a stipulation on things if you want. Okay. it's your card. So, who will be in your opening contest to get the crowd excited?
So my opening contest, I've gone for a four-way match on this one, because I think it will be something that will really get the crowd into it, and it's four young, really talented guys. Two I've gone with straight away that I think would be on lots of people's. One is Keenan. He would definitely be on there. He is so good, and thankfully he's getting, I think, the opportunities that he deserves as well. He's good on progress.
He's a really nice guy as well.
Yeah, he is. He's ace.
When I interviewed Synergy, they said they just sort of ride his coattails, because he's so good. They just want to ride his coattails and get to the top.
He is. He's super talented, and he's going to be someone who's massive, and he doesn't need me to say that. That's just the case. The guy's fantastic, and he's going to make it. And then another one in that one, which I think will be on a lot of people's list, will be Tom Felwell. Not worked with Tom for a while. He was on some of our earlier LWF shows. We'd love to have him back again for him. And he's, again, a young, very, very talented guy, who I think would be fantastic in that opening match as well. But the other two are a bit more wild.
Tom's one of my 6-year-old's favourites, I think.
Is he?
I don't know where he sees himself in, and also because but he just loves Tom. When we went to it, he was in Ignition about 6 weeks ago. was him versus Sonny Durson for the Ignition Championship, and he was so into every fall. Because Tom beat him on the show before to get the title shot. Oh, it was such a good match.
Oh, well, there you go then. So 2 good picks straight away, right? I've done all right so far.
Yes, yes.
The other two, though, were probably a bit more wild card ones. So these are guys that sort of work on our shows and that we train with. And I personally think if they're not right at this moment, they're as good as those two I've mentioned. They're right on the cusp of being. So one is Lachlan Sharp. He works on both Future Shock and LWF.
Yes.
I've trained with both of them. Again, there's not so much to say over that than he's insanely talented.
Somebody I really want to see live. I've not seen him live yet. I've seen him on YouTube, and I'm really impressed with what I've seen so far. But somebody I really want to see.
In terms of cheap plugs, get yourself down to LWF Honor and Glory, because he is on our show on Saturday. And the other one is Tony Rock. Now he's the lead singer of the LWF's resident 80s band, Shining Wizard. And again, he's someone who I don't think yet has had a chance to show himself on a bigger scale. But he is, like I say, if he's not as good as your Keenans and your Tom Felwells, he is right on the cusp of being. And the guy, he's ace as well. He's so much fun to be around and talk to. As someone I love having on our shows and training with me. So he's the other one. So Keenan, Lachlan Sharp, Tom Felwell, Tony Rock in a 4-way to open.
Oh, yeah, that'll be a great match. About a comedy match.
Okay, so this one I sort of struggled with a bit. There was one person I knew had to be in this match, and it's not necessarily because he is funny. It's just because he's the absolute best sort of straight man. And in comedy double acts, there's a funny guy and a straight guy. That's how it works.
Yes.
And the first person I put in this match was actually Jack Roberts from Synergy, the most serious, straightforward man you will ever meet. But his comedy timing is actually fantastic. He reacts to funny things happening around him so well. So he was straight in. Now, I struggled because I know a bunch of really funny wrestlers. One is Mel Price, who's just absolutely hilarious in how she sort of comes across and reacts to things happening to her. Mm-hmm. But again, that she's more sort of reactive to other people. So even though he is a current main eventer at our promotion and my biggest rival, he also just happens to be just about the funniest guy I know. So I would put Raynaldo in against Jack Roberts.
That's really interesting.
Well, he's got so many shenanigans with the football gimmick, with VAR, yellow cards and stuff like that. That he I've seen him get the referee involved with and stuff like that. And again, like kids just love him and all of that sort of thing. I think would add to a really funny match, and I just keep getting visions of Jack Roberts blowing his top because he's been shown a yellow card and stuff like that. So that was my choice for the comedy match: Raynaldo versus Jack Roberts of Synergy.
Yeah, it was the first time I saw Mel Price live. Was on Sunday at Wrestle Island, and she was a lot of fun. Oh,
she is great, Mel. I love Mel.
And then your women's title match.
Okay, so this one, I've just what I've decided with this. Again, Mel was someone I really would have considered putting in because she's been around an awful long time, great character, and a really good friend as well. So I did want to put her in, but again, I didn't. So sorry, Mel, that I've left you out of two matches. What I've actually gone with here is the three sort of LWF girls that are sort of on our show on a regular basis, and all three of them train both at the LWF Academy and at Future Shock with Sam Bailey. So they've got a lot of chemistry. They're very good friends. They've gone back years, and they're all really good. So with the women's title match, I have gone with Helena Razor from Shining Wizard, Katie Hawkins, formerly known as Casey Cassidy, and Kelly Van Ness, who has recently started working on our shows, and I think she was just up at Prize in is it Hereford? I think she was at Hereford as well over the weekend as well. Now, all three of those girls probably not as well known as your standards. I think a lot of people would straight away say, we'll have Alexis Falcon in Tonga and stuff like that, and rightly so, because they're awesome, very, very talented indeed. But I wanted to do something a bit different with that. I wanted to have that as the sort of the future of women's wrestling within LWF, and again, in a couple of years' time, all three of them women will be household names on the circuit, definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
Kelly is probably the best babyface I've known. Helena is just fantastic at basically every aspect of it, in character and sort of promoting herself. And Kate as well, very similar. She can do both heel and face. Exceptionally talented wrestler. Works a bit more of a power game than the other two as well. And just such a nice person as well. So yeah, Kelly Van Ness, Helena Razor, Katie Hawkins.
Oh, amazing. About a mid-card title, so it's like your workhorse title match.
Okay. This is really weird that you're listing this in the order that I've ended up writing my notes down. Okay, so again, I've taken the liberty of going down the LWF route on this. And when I alluded to before that, we've got guys sort of bubbling under the surface ready to be the main eventers, if we had a mid-card title match, it would definitely be between these two guys. So it's Lancashire Wrecking Crew member Davey Getsky against Nick Cutter. And I honestly, I saw them do a training match a couple of weeks ago. I just wish I'd recorded that to show the world because it was so good. That is, that's my mid-card title match and future main event match, I think, right there.
Yeah, definitely. That'll be a great match. A hardcore Extreme Rules stipulation.
You've done it again. Hardcore's the next one I've written down. So, the hardcore match again, I struggle a bit, but I do know that Dan Evans has done a few deathmatch situations things. So straight away, I thought Dan can go in there, and Dan will go against the other Lancashire Wrecking Crew member, Big Chris Stone, big bruiser of a dude, has had a no disqualifications match with me before, has had another. I think it was either no disqualification or table match or something like that before that. So he's got some experience. He's a big chunk of a guy. He can batter people. But I think that would be a good hard-hitting match, especially with Dan's background in death matches and stuff like that.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Tag team title match.
Okay, this was the easiest one for me. The two best tag team. I know a lot of people that say the Young Guns, they're ace, but I've never worked on a show with them yet. So straight away, this was a no-brainer for me. The Models, Danny Hope and Joey Hayes versus Synergy, Chris Anderson and Anderson Daniel, and Troy Ryan.
Oh.
That's if that match hasn't happened yet, it needs to. But that straight away, when you gave me that the sort of idea of putting a fantasy card together, I struggled with everything except that one. That's the type of match I want to see.
That's the type. That was the one match I think I knew who you got to pick as well. Yeah, I think Danny Hope and Joey Hayes are like modern day legends, which we won't miss until they're gone. I think.
I think you're right. I tend not to sort of talk about my tag team career and stuff like that too much, but it was working with them too that made. If I'm any sort of decent wrestler now, it's because of working with them two for a couple of years consecutively. So no, those two. I think just two of the absolute best there's been on the British circuit by a long way, and Synergy right now they're just the best tag team for my money. So that's the match I would definitely want to see.
Yeah, and Synergy are so good that the brilliance of being heels, they could be complete arseholes, but then they're the best baby faces I've seen as well.
This is the thing with Synergy, you can't help but love them. Even if you want to boo them, you've got to end up cheering them. So they just, I think, organically turn into baby faces in any promotion that they're at. But no, that was a no-brainer for me. Synergy in the Models. In fact, I'm going to get on to Steve maybe about booking that match at some point.
Yeah. Then your main event.
All right, the main event, and this is the one that I properly struggled with. So I am actually just going to. Can I cheat on this one a little bit?
Do everything.
So basically, with this one, I think a main event of just take between 4 and 6 of the Beast promotions in the Northwest, take all of their champions and pit them against each other. That is what like a best in Lancashire or a best in the Northwest, like for some massive belt or trophy or something. Whether I'm the champion or not at that point, it doesn't matter. But I would like to see the LWF belt defended against like the Future Shot belt, the GPW one, Odysseys when they get it, things like that. Just good promotions with great fan bases, and certainly with like GPW and Future Shot, fantastic history. So that's what I'd want to see. So whoever's champion or the top guy in all of those promotions against each other. So whether that's me or whether that's Ray or whether that's someone else representing the LWF or whether that's, DDL or Sam Bailey or anyone like that from Future Shock. The alternative one, if you're not accepting that as an answer, I would.
That's an answer to me. That'd be amazing.
If we can't accept that as an answer, let's do the head coach of the LWF Academy versus the head coach of the Future Shock Academy, or so have like me or Sam against each other, something like that.
Oh, that'd be fun.
It would be fun. I don't think I've ever actually worked against Sam Bailey. I've worked with him loads of times, but I don't think ever against. And like I say. We sort, for the most part, we seem to be sharing our students. They come and train with him, they come and train with me. It would be nice to sort of have something with him at some point, even if that was just to say thank you for the cooperation. Because I've known the previous person who trained in Manchester a lot had no intention of sharing and things like that. But now there's great cooperation and things like that. So maybe we can acknowledge that in some way. So either a best in the Northwest match or me versus Sam as LWF versus Future Shock, something like that.
Oh, amazing. That'd be a great card. I'd really love to watch that.
But yeah, I had some stress doing that, man. I really it's like, matches.
Yeah, so people in the past have just went, I'll open it with a battle royal with all these people I can't fit on the rest of the or
that would have
one
been
person. I can't remember who it was. His comedy match was a game of musical chairs with all the guys he couldn't fit on the card.
See, if only I could be that creative.
But yeah, so do you want to promote the show this weekend again, and then promote any social media you have before we go?
Yeah, I do. So the show this weekend, LWF Honour and Glory, is at the Army Reserve Centre in Chorley. As I said earlier, it is sold out for online tickets, but there are still some seats available at a first come, first served basis. So if you do want to come, please do. Am I all right to run down the card? You got enough time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So we have got a bunch of great matches on this one. Obviously, it's main evented with the Lancashire Wrecking Crew of myself, Davey Getsky, and Chris Stone versus Nick Cutter, Raynaldo, and Bob Coston. We have some qualifying matches for our six-man frenzy match for number one contendership at the next show. So we've got Lachlan Sharp versus John McKinney. We've got, which will be ace, by the way. We've got Nathan Gunn versus El Hijo de Gorgon, and we've got we have Conrad Blaze versus Lex Vinnick. We have Katie Hawkins versus Kelly Van Ness. And we also have Harley Hudson coming up for the first time to work with Mel Price.
They're against each other on. Well, they were in a six-man tag, six-person tag against each other on Sunday. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we're looking forward to having Harley up. I think that's
Harley's great.
A really good addition to our roster.
All the girls in the audience just completely just fall in love with her as soon as she comes out. So there's
Oh, I can understand. She seems ace. I've not yet met her in person.
Oh, she's lovely.
So I'm looking forward. She's actually going to come up to. I believe she's going to come up to the LWF Academy as well and teach some fitness classes as well from October. So I've a bit more to do with her at that point. She'll be really good. Now, the main event on this show is actually the Mosh Pit Mayhem match, which is anything goes match between Shining Wizard, which are Tony Rock, Big Ron, Clash, and Helena Razor, against all four members of Synergy. And to the best of my knowledge, all four members of Synergy have not been in a match at the same time yet. So that will be a first. And also a first, Helena will be the first woman to main event an LWF show as well. So we're very excited about that. So that will be an ace show. I very strongly recommend you coming down, and remember, tickets are on the very verge of running out. So if you do want to come, please do.
Cool. Well, I'll put links in the description below the interview. So I've really enjoyed speaking today. I'd love to have you on again in the future.
Okay, be happy to do it.